Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Running with Friends. Before I introduce my guest today, I just want to shout out Track and Friends. They've been releasing new styles of merch recently, so go check them out. The link to the store is on my link tree. I also want to shout out my friends Cyrus and Nick, who run for Sarasota High School. They have their own podcast called the Think Deep Podcast. They've had some pretty good guests on there, like some of the Tin Man guys. Ever Silva, who's one of the top runners in the NCAA. They even had this one guy named Jan last week. Not sure who he is, but it was a pretty good episode. I listened to it, so if you want to check it out, I'll also be on my link tree. And now to introduce my guest, you know, she's what I would like to say every high school runner in Florida's crush, but unfortunately she is off the market, guys. So chill with that. You guys might know her as Adair Lyden, Little Lyden, however you want to call her, but welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
How's it going? How's it going?
We're recovering after what was a marathon of a week at
Oh,
AAU
yes.
Junior Olympics. So that's in the books. First track meet back. And then, we're already heading into cross season this week. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like everyone already knows you just because you work for Alpha Runners, but for those of you who don't know, Adair's been part of the Florida running committee for years now. I feel like she's like one of the founding fathers of the Florida running community. I mean, she ran in middle school, she ran in high school, like she's been running once she finished high school. Now she works for Alpha Runners. So first I want to ask, like, when did you start running and why did you start running?
yeah, good question. I'm thinking back. So I guess '09 was when I started. Before my sixth grade year, I used to run for Westminster Academy. And I started running because I was not good at anything else. I wasn't even good at running. So maybe let's just say I just started running because my dad was coaching. He had ran at Westminster Academy, was a state champ there. And I kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps. So joined the cross country team, immediately fell in love with the team. I hated running. Absolutely. It was the worst. Honestly, it kind of can be the worst,
Oh
if
yeah, I
I'm being
mean,
honest.
I still hate it sometimes. I don't blame you.
Yeah. So the team was the big aspect for me, the community. Kept on doing it, got better year by year. Middle school, I really, towards my seventh and eighth grade year, really saw a peak in my performance. And then we moved to Orlando. I ran for Lake Nona High School and graduated back in 2016 with Jan. And Jan and I met back our senior year. So still friends to this day. We'll graduate college this week. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I got my start. It's been a long time. I'm retired now. I'm like 2 years in. I need to get back into the game. But if any of y'all have any tips, on getting back when you literally have not run in 2.5 years, it hurts like hell.
Yeah, no, I mean, you say you're retired, but like you're still super connected to the running community, and like you mentioned your dad, like he was a great runner as well in the Florida running community. So like you guys have that family history. So I feel like a lot of people don't like people who don't know you before you got your FR Runners job just see you as like a dare from FR Runners, but like I feel like people don't fail to realize that you're actually a pretty good runner in high school. Like, I mean, we're talking about 5:19 mile, 11:13 2 mile. You're like an 18:40 5K girl. Like, you weren't bad, dude. Like, you're a stud, low key. Like, and then, but like, I feel like a lot of these young kids only see you as like, oh, that's the dare who like interviews me. That's the dare who like writes the articles. And like, people fail to realize that you're actually a pretty good runner once. And like, going, piggyback off of that, like, obviously, like throughout your career, you dealt with like a lot of injuries and just a lot of things that like every girl deals with. Like, we're talking about puberty. Like, I feel like, especially like nowadays, like a lot of girls like have like really good like first 1 or 2 years in high school, and then they see like a dip in their like performance and practice, a dip in their times and like races due to puberty, and they can, it's easy to get discouraged because of that. And you're like a testament to someone who kind of like went through that, and like you were super open about it. You spoke about it. I mean, even before you worked for Runners, you used to write for them, and like you did the little Lyden's like life tips, like that whole writing series where like you wrote articles for them like pretty much weekly on like just struggles. Like you talked about stuff like depression, like eating, like self-image, like just different stuff like that, that like I feel like is super important for like someone to, for girls who have that conversation, and for girls to see someone like you who like had your success in high school, now you're a successful like woman working for Runners, for them to see someone like you and like someone who like went through those struggles as well, but you were still able to succeed. Like, what did that mean to you, like to be able to write those articles and like kind of leave that legacy for girls to like look back and be like, oh wow, like, because so many girls look up to you nowadays, and it's like nice to know that like they can see you not only as like this successful like girl who works for Runners, but also like this girl who like went through her struggles throughout running and throughout her career.
Yeah, I actually turned to writing when I was battling a lot of my time off from running in high school. So thankfully I never had any external injuries when it came to, broken bones or anything sort of like that, or stress fractures. Never really had to deal with anything of that nature. But when it came to puberty hit hard for me. Again, starting young and seeing success young, and in a young body, and then transitioning into a woman's body and understanding that my body has to transition so that I can ultimately have these big goals in running, that I can't be successful in this little girl's body anymore. And I was craving a lot of information on this while I was going through it, and there just wasn't a lot of information. Now I think we are seeing a lot of people coming forward in terms of their own stories, both men and women, because a lot of these things, when it comes to body image, when it comes to eating and depression, that's not just strictly with that women have to deal with. I definitely see it both ways, but when it came to puberty and going through it, I really turned to writing, and I didn't necessarily think that I was a great writer, or thought that this could be a career. It was more something like, hey, I have all these thoughts. I'm journaling throughout all of this, but I want to share it. And I think this needs to be shared, and this needs to be talked about. And hell yeah, is it uncomfortable to talk about going through puberty on the internet? But at the same time, if I don't, who will? And that was kind of my mentality, is if we don't break barriers and show that this is uncomfortable now, then will we change certain things? And I think that's the mentality that a lot of women have now when they go into sharing their stories in the sport. If they don't, who will? Just opening up that conversation. So I ultimately shared my first story with Flrunners back, I want to say 2012, 2013, and was given the privilege to continue to write for them moving forward. And little did I know that it would become a career for myself, and a career, especially while I finished up my college degree. It I am honored that you say that it's that these are stories that young girls read and whatnot, because how I see it is it was more of a therapy for me to get it out in the open, so that they understood, or that I understood, like, I may not be the best, and I may not be a state champion. I may not accomplish all of my goals that I had set for myself in high school or even in college. But ultimately, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to grow and I'm going to learn from this experience. And everything does happen for a reason. I'm a full believer in that. And so I don't think that if I had taken that chance, I would be here getting to interview some of Florida's best athletes and some of the athletes that are on the forefront of an Olympic year. It has definitely come full circle. I don't know if that answers the
Yeah, no,
question.
yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, talking back to like the articles you like wrote, like definitely like they were not, and I say like, yeah, like younger girls like read them and like can see that, but even like guys, like, because I remember like back like when you were writing those, like that's kind of how I first heard of you, like just because I was that one high school kid that was literally always on F4Runners, like we'll be in class and I'm supposed to be like paying attention to class and I'm sitting on my phone scrolling through F4Runners, like reading articles. So like that's how I first like kind of got to know who you were, and it was like, and like you said, it goes both ways, women and men. Like it's definitely hard to talk about, but it's definitely like you said, like who's gonna do it? Like I mean, recently Noah Lyles like opened up in the internet and talked about being on antidepressants and like just his mental health, and it's like it's good for people like that to open up and like talk about that, because obviously like we see them as like these very fast, very successful athletes, and we just think like, oh man, their life is super sweet, like they're professionals, they're fast, they do all these like great things, but like we don't see like behind the scenes. And for them to open up and like talk about like, oh yeah, like I deal with depression, like I deal with mental health issues, is good, because like also as like younger runners, like we also deal with that sometimes, and we think like, oh, like sometimes we like beat ourselves up like, oh, why are we like this, but when in reality even like professionals and like runners who are like on top of the world like deal with the same struggles. So it's good, it's a good thing to open up about it. So definitely like,
Yeah.
yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
I think that it's interesting that you see, I mean, Noah Lyles is our age, and you really see this generation being open and honest, and in a way that is vulnerable but not weak. And again, I mean, even with, I've seen Colin Quigley open up about certain issues. Like you see professional athletes beginning to dip their toes into telling their story, and I think social media allows for that a lot better these days. But if us as media members can also help allow these athletes to tell their story, I'm all for that. And to ultimately not just tell their story to tell it, but to tell their story so that we can get on a right path and a right trajectory in terms of how we think about ourselves, in how we train, and healthy mindset when it comes to body image and mental health and all those
Yeah,
things.
of course. So I mean, you started out as like just a young high school runner writing for Alpha Runners, like you said, around 2012, 2013. Then you fast forward August 1st, 2018, the big announcement comes out, Adair Lyden, new webmaster for Alpha Runners. How did that happen, and like what did it mean to you to be able to like kind of like integrate yourself into a team that like was there throughout your struggles, what gave you that platform, like you said, to like write about your own struggles throughout your career, and just like be part of that community and that team that's been there for just not for you and like for me as well, because that for runner has been like a family to me as I grew up as a high school runner, and like stuff like that. Like what did it mean to you and how did that come about?
Yeah, it is a crazy opportunity, and things really just kind of happened, and I don't, know how it all came to be, because I'm still 2 years in, wrapping my brain around how everything really lined up. And at the end, the opportunity presented itself, and I took it, knowing I had 2 years left of school, knowing that it was going to be a struggle to finish school, and to do this job justice. I had big shoes to fill. A person that came before me and the person that came before them have really set the standard for how Floridians are covered in the running community. And like you said, Florida Runners is something that, like, you were on it in high school 24/7. So was I. I loved the stats feature of it. I'm I will preach the gospel of miles split to anyone who will listen. And so the opportunity presented itself. It was not an easy year by any means. A lot of adjustment, a lot of building relationships. And when you have big shoes to fill, you have to prove yourself. And it's just like the sport of running. With each interval you get stronger. And so, I mean, 2 years in, it's still not easy, but we're really seeing a lot of progress here in Florida. Just in terms of, me allowing to have my own creative take on how I want to run the site, but at the same time, being a part of the Greater Mile Split Network. So if you don't know, like, Florida Runners is really big here, but it's part of a greater network, and that's the Mile Split Network. And we are owned and operated by Flow Sports. You may know Flow Track, that's a vertical. So we're really trying to set the standard when it comes to niche sports and like indie sports and sports that don't get a lot of coverage normally, and trying to set the standard and really improve upon the coverage that we give our athletes. And again, I couldn't tell you the whirlwind of how it all went down. I think maybe in a few years it'll all kind of come together, but it's been a blast. It's been very tough to come from an athlete to I'm a professional, and like, I don't only just talk to these athletes, but I talk to their coaches, and I talk to meet directors, and I talk to timers, and I build relationships with them. The sport is so intricate, and there are a lot of people that are very, very, very important into how the sport is able to function. And I've really enjoyed these past 2 years getting the opportunity to not only see it from an athlete's perspective, but to see it from a coach's perspective. It's definitely, planted that seed that I would totally want to coach one day, just because you see so many different moving parts. And oftentimes, like, this athletes will come up and talk to me, and I'm just like, why do you want to talk to me? Like, I am retired. I'm pretty boring.
It's because they have a crush on you.
Oh no, I do love them. It's just funny because it's like I want to talk to them. I'm almost intimidated by them. Like, they are the stars of the show. Without when I first got hired, it was like, you do this for the kids. And yeah, every day, like, that's my favorite part, is to literally help people off the line at the finish line shoot, like, get to their person, like, get some water. It's my favorite part is to see them enjoy it, because that was my favorite part. It was just enjoying the moment, enjoying the friendship. So it's been crazy to almost be friends with this whole new community of athletes that I wouldn't necessarily get to know. I mean, we're 4 years out. We're getting pretty old.
Oh, yeah, I know. And I could agree with that. I feel the same way. Like, even now, like, I wasn't the fastest guy coming out of high school. Like, I wasn't the fastest guy in college. But like you said, like, there's kids who like just know me just because I'm super personable. I'm super social. I'm very active on social media. So like, they like reach out to me. They want to talk to me. And it's like, dude, like, this kid like destroys the times I ran in high school, and he wants to talk to me. Like, he wants to be friends with me. Like, I feel the same way. But like, yeah, no, like you said, like, obviously when you first got the job, there was a lot of criticism that you got, but like, if anybody could endure that, it was definitely you. And like, 2 years down the road, like you mentioned it earlier in the episode, you were at a national caliber meet this past week, and you led an all-female crew. And I know you tweeted the other day, you're like, a goal or a dream of mine when I got this job was to lead an all-female crew out of me, and to be able to do it on a national level meet. What did it mean to you?
Yeah, so I entered Miles Split as the only full-time woman editor. I still am the only woman in my Monday meetings. We have Olivia. If you catch any national sprint stuff, you will see her face, and she's great. But we're really few and far between when it comes to just the nature of the sport. And, it is still, and, will continue to be for a while, a very male dominated sport. And I made that goal 2 years ago because I'm sitting, at my desk trying to figure out cross country coverage for my first ever cross country season as the editor. And I'm trying to find people, photographers, videographers, and Florida, we have some great ones. Like, I'm sure everybody listening, Cedric, he's great. Tyler Copeland, he's awesome. Jake Hartfigson, who is Will and Ben Hartfigson's dad, he's great. Like Dominique Smith, he's a great videographer, great writer. Like, so many people that I can name, and forgive me if I'm missing anybody, but they're awesome. But I really, really wanted to find some more women, that we can ultimately have in this community for years to come. But it's more important for me to show like other young women that like, this is something that you can do. Like, I didn't know I could do it. Like, this is something that's always in the back pocket of, if you want a sport or if you want a career within the sport, this is a possibility. So leading into a Junior Olympics, coronavirus really threw everything for a wrench. I was not supposed to cover this meet. It was supposed to be in Virginia. Virginia pulled out, and of course, Florida is the wild, wild west when it comes to coronavirus happenings. So Satellite High School bid to host AAUJOs, and my first call was to Denise Span, who, if you all don't follow her, I think it's at Denise Span on Twitter. Follow her Twitter, and her journalism journey. She is great. She's a flow grown runner too. Graduated from Boyd Anderson High School. Fabulous. And she is a queen when it comes to interviewing little kids. I am struggling with interviewing little kids. Y'all can go see that. I had a kid say, was like, how'd your throw sequence go? And he was like, my what? And I was like, okay, we'll talk to you later. But she was my first call. Fabulous help. We just had our Indiana editor, who is part-time editor in the Mousewit Network. She just moved to Florida, so now I have her to help out. And if you are listening and you're a high school runner and you're especially in that Central Florida area, you will see more of Becca. She is great, my right-hand gal. And then I actually got the opportunity to hire athlete that I've covered for 2 years. Absolute joy. You've had her on a podcast, Ashley Kleinberg. When I tell you, Ashley may be the funniest person I've ever met in my entire life.
She's hilarious. She's a goofball.
She's so funny. And she just was like the glue for our coverage team. So I had an absolute blast. It was tough work. August, covering a track meet for the first time in 4 months, but to have that little slice of history with these gals who are so talented in each of their own areas of expertise was awesome. And it was awesome to kind of have this as a 2-year kind of way to wrap up 2 years and to get on with the next chapter ahead here in Florida. So yeah, I had a blast. We all couldn't believe that this was the first all women's coverage team Mile Split had. So we're kind of patting ourselves on the back with that one.
Yeah, no, of
But
course, that's awesome. And I mean, I kept up with like interviews and like just tweets and pictures, and you guys all did an amazing job out there. So obviously,
yeah,
you're talking about coverage. So and you talked about COVID. So obviously, COVID has thrown everything for a wrench, not only high school but college. So going into this cross country season, has there been any kind of like adjustments you've had to make, or you and your team, or just Mile Split, to like looking forward to like covering this cross country season? So if there is going to be a season or not, it's kind of like still up in the air. Like, what do you think?
yeah. I hot take. I think Florida probably will have a season. I don't necessarily think that that's going to be a season that we know how it's looked like in the past. I wouldn't be quick to say that, but definitely I think we will have some club races. And that was indicative of how AUJOs went. Again, this is a hot take. This is no like, oh, insider information. I don't have insider information. I'm just like everybody else. Getting those informations in those 8-hour FHSAA meetings. But we're like in one of those situations where I have a lot of coworkers that are like, Virginia has moved to February and California has moved to December, and like Texas has postponed by 2 weeks. And it's very interesting to see across the network what all these different states are doing. I'm prepping for cross as if cross is going to happen. And, we'll see. I don't think that it's going to be the same. In my brain, I doubt we'll have a state series. But if athletes are allowed to have meets and we're also allowed to remain safe and healthy, then I'm all for it. But wear your mask, people. Like, wash your hands. Like, I know we all want to get back to it. And that's what it's going to take. And it's going to take a lot of just like following the rules. And I know it's super stressful for all these students who are like trying to go back to school, like don't know what that looks like. Literally, guys, I like can't imagine that. I think Jan and I were talking about it a few weeks ago. Like, I just can't imagine being a senior or even being a junior or even being in high school or middle school
Yeah,
and going through all of this.
it's
Like,
so different.
yeah,
Like I look
it
back,
just,
I look. It makes me look back at my high school days and like be so appreciative. Because now it's like, I feel bad for kids because it's like, man, like especially kids who are like going into the senior year, trying to go to college and stuff like that. Like this, like makes recruiting so weird. Like it's just a whole different dynamic that you have to deal with. But I mean, I know kids who make the most of it. Kids who like take any advantage of any opportunity they get, and we'll all move forward. And hopefully, this COVID goes away soon because it's definitely like
yeah,
throwing everything
it's not
off.
fun.
Not
And
at all.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like, make the most of it. I mean, continue to train and continue to look forward. But I mean, I wouldn't give up hope just yet. I mean, we'll see what happens. We're in August. I think for most schools have already started this week. We'll see. I will definitely be at some meets. So, we're just chugging right along until those official cancellations kind of hit way, which we'll see after this Friday meeting with the FHSAA what they decide to do. But it's important to remember that football is king, and that, yes, I know that upsets everybody in the cross country and track community because I was on senior shoes and still am, where I'm upset that football gets precedent, but it's just the reality. And it's just the reality of how much money they make and how much money they make for your programs. And you may not realize it, but it is an important sport for them. So
Yeah. I mean,
we'll
yeah.
see.
I mean, I'm sitting here as an NCAA athlete, and I mean, Big Ten just canceled, Pac-12 just canceled today.
Yeah.
So it's like 2 out of those 5 Power 5 conferences are out with football.
Oh,
So who knows? Like, when the next few
Yeah.
will cancel. Like, it's not looking good for NCAA athletes either. Like, there might not be a season, but like you said, we just got to make the most of it. Like, this is something that was completely out of our control. So it's not like we can't really blame anybody. It's kind of like I talked on like the podcast with Nick and Cyrus. It's like just kind of have like that stay ready mentality where like just stay ready. If season happens, then you're ready, then you're good to go. But if season doesn't happen, then just stay ready because believe me, we'll get to race again soon, like eventually, like whether it's this fall, whether it's in the spring, but eventually we'll get to race again. Like there's no way like sports is gonna stop forever. Like that's not gonna happen. So
Yeah.
just stay ready. So yeah, so outside of running, outside of mile split, for all those kids that have a crush on Adair, she's actually engaged and is getting married soon. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. 4 months until the big day. Um, I don't know if that's gonna stop some people from asking me if I can go out on a date with them. I'm literally so old. You don't want to go out with me. I'm also very boring, but I'll help you find a good gal. But I'm not it. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I didn't think that would happen. I mean, Jan has literally been friends with me through like 2 boyfriends, so Jan really knows everything. But it's fun. I'm excited. I'm excited for this new chapter. I think it's really cool to see how running has brought my fiance and I together in certain aspects. You know, he ran in high school in Ohio, and I ran here, and he was an NCAA athlete. So you know, he has an idea of what I do for a living, and that's kind of cool, despite not living here and like knowing all the ins and outs of Florida running. But it's been really cool to share that experience with somebody, and that's always been, you know, a top priority of mine in a partner, is to have someone who understands like the running world, because I don't think I'll ever be able to give it up at this point, now that it's
Oh
kind of my career.
no, I feel that. I think I'll be connected to the running world till the day I die.
Yeah, and so it's been fun. I'm excited to, you know, like begin this journey and like eventually start a family and like start pretending to be grown, because I still don't feel like it. But yeah, we're super excited for what's to come.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, so you're about to graduate from UF, right? You're about to get married. Like, what else is next for Adair Lyden in the future?
Ah, tough
Tough
question.
question, I know,
Um,
right?
2020 has been one for the books. Yeah, graduating college, global pandemic, and getting married. But I'd trade it. What's next? Just continue to enjoy the season of life that I'm in here. I would like to see myself get back into some running shape. The marathon distance has been one of my goals to compete in. And I was so close, and then, you know, got the job, and I was like, yeah, 17-mile runs just like aren't for me anymore. um, but I would like to see myself, you know, get into some better running shape, and to really you know, do more creative type features on some athletes here. I think school has definitely put that on a back burner while I finish writing out some research papers, but would like to be more immersed in the Florida running community here, get to know a lot of the class of 2021 and under, and, you know, see how we can make some of their goals happen despite you know, a lack of a full season for them. If there's any role that we can play in allowing them to reach their goals, I want to play in it, and I want to be a factor in allowing and facilitating that. So this is some big goals for now. I'm not thinking too far ahead. We got
Yeah, I
we
feel
got a
you.
lot this year.
This whole COVID thing has made me realize, like, just take it day by day because you you never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
It's
never.
insane. But hey, if you get back into running and you need to join a club, I heard Narbletics, great club, top
I
tier.
know. I am technically like a NARP though. Like I am
Hey,
technically a non-athletic person right
there we
now.
go. Perfect.
So I can be the spokesperson for NARP athletics.
Perfect. All right, so before we wrap up, I just want to shoot you with some Q&As, just quick questions, and you give
Some
me,
rapid fire.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I love
yeah.
rapid fire. Okay.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, so what were your favorite shoes to train with?
Nike pegs. I had the 19s, I think.
Oh, you're definitely old.
Yeah. I mean,
19?
I started running in those like when I was in like early, even before middle school, like when I just thought they were cool looking. But they were definitely ugly back then. They're
Oh
so
yeah,
much cuter now.
they're so much better now. All right, favorite professional runner.
Oh my God, that's so hard. Oh my God. Let me think real quick. Shoot.
I know it's a
The first
lot.
one that comes out top of my head right now is Sydney Mclaughlin. Literally love to look at her. Like I
Oh,
think
she's gorgeous.
she's gorgeous.
My future
She's super
wife.
fast. Yeah, no, she's definitely one. Noah Lyles is up there. Um, distance wise, that's tough. Really big fan of Lauren Fleshman, and stuff she stands for. But I'm sure I'm missing someone good too.
Oh
But
yeah.
those are the top three right now, probably.
Who would you say was your biggest high school rival?
Oh God,
I know I'm taking you back to.
I'm literally so old, Jan. Um, dun, 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 dun. High school. See, like I wasn't like good in high school. I was good in like middle school.
What about okay,
um,
middle school then?
well, we'll go to middle school. Um, Meredith Anderson. She ran for Benjamin. Um, I was in 1A Region 4 trying to go to 3,200-meter states in track. And I am like 4'2" and a whopping like
Oh yeah,
50
you're
pounds at this time.
tiny.
Tiny, tiny, tiny. And Meredith Anderson is like 5'10", beautiful, like model, and just like had the stride of like four of me, like just elegant. And I ended up beating her, I think, my senior or my 8th grade year. But we went back and forth my 7th and 8th grade year, and they would call me the flea on Meredith Anderson. It definitely looked like one too.
What was your favorite Florida cross country course to race at?
Ooh, that's a tough one too.
I know I'm hitting you with some good questions. I'm trying to pick at
I'm
your
gonna give
brain.
you I'm gonna give you two.
Perfect.
Um, the first one, I love to cover this course.
Okay.
I don't necessarily love to race this course, and that is the ARP.
Oh, ARP. ARP is always up there on everyone's list.
Yeah, but I ran a 10K there, and like I literally love that place, but that 10K
Oh,
done messed me up.
I ran a 10K there, and I feel like it wasn't as bad because I also ran a 10K in Alabama, and that course wrecked me. So Alabama compared to ARP, like it made ARP look like a baby. So I love ARP.
Then I'm such a baby for thinking that was the most difficult thing, but I'll never run a 10K on the ARP again. Um, to run and to race back in high school. I'm gonna say Chain of Lakes Park. We don't typically, that's not really run anymore, but like it was always short. Like sometimes like always
Oh
short when I
yeah,
was in high
I
school.
remember one year it was so short. I crossed the line. The clock said like freaking like 14:20. I'm like, all right, I know how to
I
give
didn't
summer
run
training.
that.
I know how to give summer training, but not that good.
Yeah, it's where I hold my PR in the cross 5K. Obviously because it's such a fast course and it's short. most of the time. A lot of times it's not, but most of the time it is. And it's where Florida Runners Meet was held for years and years and years before it was at Holloway Park.
I love that meet.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. The stage, the people dancing, like it was just literally cross country at its finest.
That's one of my favorite. Literally next to cross states. Florida Runners is my top favorite meet to cover. I wish like every team got to experience that. But yeah, Chain of Lakes, ARP, and then you didn't ask, but Florida Runners is the best meet.
There we go. What's one of your biggest pet peeves?
Man, Jan, these are hard. I have so many. I'm like such an irritable person. I'm sure Brady can list like 8 of my pet peeves.
Oh yeah, I wonder how Brady even puts up with you.
Hey, I'm fun sometimes. A pet peeve of mine, will relate it back to running, but it's when coaches or athletes tweet at MilesFoot or FlowTrack or Florida Runners and be like, put some respect on my name, blah, blah. And it's like, y'all, we watch you. Like, you don't think we do, but we're putting a lot of respect on your name. Like,
or when guys like me tweet at Flow Sports or MilesFoot complaining why their streams aren't free.
Yes. That's another one. That's a big one. Look, guys, I get it. I get it. You want it free, especially when you think football is free on ESPN. But I cannot tell you the amount of just work and frustration and like how many nights I've been up at 2 a.m. and for someone to say, oh, this should have been free is like, oh, you just stabbed me in the heart. I get it, but yeah, it just next time you're like, I wish this was free. Remember, like, you're investing in your sport.
Yeah, and all the hard
and that's
work
what it's all about.
All the hard work that goes into that behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Which you put me in my place, so I won't do no more of those tweets. I appreciate the hard work now. All right, so favorite to like interview, field events, sprinters or distance runners?
They're so much fun in their own right.
Yes.
Like I said, what I told you today, AAU really solidified that every event is so much fun to interview. It's just about like how you do it and how you go about it. I love to interview sprints and throws only because I've never done them before, and field events. So jumps, vaults. I think that those are super interesting because I have very limited knowledge when it comes to actually competing in. But I'd be lying if I said that when I get to cross season and I get to interview like such a great race, my like inner just like racer comes out and I ask some questions that like I didn't even think I would ask because I'm so curious about what was going through your like brain when you made this move at 2 miles to go. Like when they were breathing down your neck, what was going through your head? I like all three, but yeah, I was telling Denise this weekend, like she is to the sprints as I am to distance, and like you have to know you have your strengths, but also like it's important to get better at those weaknesses.
All right, last but not least, this might be the easiest question I give you. Will I be invited to the wedding?
Yes, Jan, you'll be.
Go.
If we get a wedding.
Oh yeah.
If we get a wedding.
Hopefully we do. I'm ready for that. That should be fun.
Yeah, it'll be so much fun. We've come full circle. I think it's really cool that we will have a lot of Florida running community represented at the wedding. So
well represented.
Love it. Yeah. Right, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
This was fun.
I was super excited to have you on. You guys go ahead and go renew your F4 Runner subscriptions. I swear Adair's not paying me to say that. But yeah, it was so nice having you on. This was a great conversation, and I hope everyone who listens to it enjoys it.
Yeah, thanks, Jan, and
No
best
problem.
of luck everybody in this cross season.
Oh yeah, best of luck.